where a humanitarian crisis is seemingly unfolding. I'm sure you've heard the story. Thousands of Malawian nationals remaining stranded at shelters while waiting for repatriation back home, specifically at the Sherwood Hall shelter, where tensions have escalated yesterday, with reports of clashes between migrants and police. This was amid frustration over delays, I think uncertainty being the most key one, and limited communication about when or how some of them will be returning home. Volunteers and aid workers have stepped in to assist, to provide food and basic support, but the situation is being described on the ground as increasingly unstable and emotionally charged as families, people with young children, men and women, wait without clear timelines or guarantees of when they'll be repatriated back home. This is over fears of those anti-illegal migrant protests that have rocked particularly the city of Durban. And we'll be heading to the ground to get some insight and to understand what is unfolding and what options exist for those that have been affected. And we're joined by the convener of the South African Pasaya Movement Youth Committee, Singh. I'm sure they are on the ground. This is happening in Durban, so they have a much clearer picture to give the rest of us of what's really happening on the ground. Riley, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to News and Views. Really appreciate you giving us the time.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Pleasure's all ours. Let's jump right into it. What is the latest regarding, I think it was around 10,000 Malawians who are waiting to be repatriated back home? What's the situation on the ground? We saw some very, very ugly scenes yesterday. Can you give us the latest on that?
Right. So as per I think the SABC reporting on a Tuesday, it's about 8,000 now. And yes, we have seen some violence happening yesterday on Wednesday. And as you've mentioned before, that is because a lot of people are very much disgruntled with the very slow repatriation process. We know that the Malawian government is asking for aid organizations to chip in and help. And so, yeah, it is a very dire situation as well, especially if you've been on the ground. I went there on Tuesday. It is absolutely abysmal seeing how many people are overcrowded there. We've also gotten reports that because of we speak about it being a humanitarian crisis, there is a severe lack of amenities present, that I've heard allegations that many women have reportedly given birth on the field, and it's been a while for them to actually have gone to the hospital for that. So yeah, the situation is very dire in Sherwood right now, and that is why you're seeing a lot of discontent manifest into clashes with the police.
What are some of the main key reasons that a lot of these Malawian nationals aren't being correctly repatriated or processed for repatriation? What's the cause of this bottleneck that we see?
I think a big concern is just it all started like just after June, in the beginning of June, where you just had a few hundreds of people fleeing, like mostly the informal settlements, out of fear for their lives. And then once word got out that there was essentially a place of safe refuge, we quickly saw that within a week there grew to being 10,000 people. And so it is a lot, and it is the extent of the humanitarian crisis. I don't think anyone, Home Affairs, the municipality, nor the community really was prepared for. And so given that, we've gotten reports that a lot of people are very, very unhappy with how slow the buses are being sent off. Right now, they're starting with women and children first and then sending the men after. So yeah, in terms of like what has led to the delay is just, both the government and also the Malawian government, very slow response and being a bit taken aback by just the severity of the crisis that we're seeing.
I want to touch on something that's very, very important, the role of volunteers and just civil society groups. So what kind of role are they playing in supporting those affected on the ground? What kind of needs are they attending to?
Oh, I mean, it's safe to say that they were there first before any government official was, as is their community. It was the Sherwood community, you had like the mosque, various local Muslim organizations, but just the over just the general Sherwood community. They stepped in, they provided daily food drops, providing humanitarian aid supplies. They've been really at the forefront in trying to address people's immediate material concerns. And so, yeah.
And one thing that was concerning for me is there were fears that these anti-illegal migrant groups like March and Operation Tudula might encroach on Sherwood and I don't know, try and ensue violence of some sort. Is that a serious threat? Is it a fear that there might be contact between the groups?
It's funny you actually say that. So I was there on Tuesday at Sherwood Hall. I've been there for I think the vast majority of the day, from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. And during that time, we actually had 3 buses full of March and March people come down the street. And I can only presume that they were there to instigate. I don't understand what would be their reason further. And you probably would have seen video footage of the Malawians in their thousands immediately recognize the March and March people that they were there, and then immediately chase them out of the area. And you would see video footage of them doing sort of a victory lap after that. And it just goes to show you the audacity of March and March. The fact, I'd say it was 3 buses, so couldn't be more than 100 people, thought that they could show up and intimidate 8,000 people who do not like them because they've been displaced because of them. And so, yeah, it is, your question of, is there a bit of conflict? Has March and March come into the area? Yes, they have. And, we've also seen certain figureheads of sort of this anti-immigrant movement. Ngizwe Nhunu, he was there a few days ago. Jacinta was there. And both of them seemingly, if you look at Newsroom Africa, their coverage of it, where they interviewed them, they seemed almost, in a very macabre sense, gleeful at what had happened. So, yeah.
Yeah. How tense would you say the situation is on the ground right now? There's this deadline that has been set for June the 30th, if I'm not mistaken, where illegal migrants supposedly should be vacating South Africa by then. Is the tension palpable within the streets of Durban? Are you sensing that something might go down post that date?
Very much so. And just for the record, obviously the immediate concern is the migrant communities, because they're the ones who are going to be immediately affected by this proposed June 30th deadline. But the tension is also palpable with just the natural born South African population as well. Part of civil society, our intervention, we've been trying to reach out to churches, mosques, temples, to ask them if they can provide temporary shelter. And we've had people get back to us saying, look, we would like to help, but we are absolutely afraid of what March and March will come and do to us if we house these people here. And so there is just a great deal of fear from everyone involved about what is going to happen, not just on June 30th, but the lead up to June 30th, and also on the 1st of July. Because let's say, June 30th happens, and then July 1st, and you still have a Zimbabwean worker on the street, a Malawian gardener still out on the street. What's going to happen then? They're past the deadline. So what do we do at that point? So these are very real concerns and very difficult questions we are asking ourselves as to what is possibly going to happen.
Riley, I want to wrap up this conversation by maybe just getting your perspective as someone who's in probably the most volatile region in the country right now when it comes to this anti-legal migrant sentiment, how the rest of us should be going about the conversation and the discourse around it. Do you have groupings of South Africans that are making, I think, to an extent, valid concerns that there is an issue of illegal migration in South Africa? Many, even the languaging is starting to change. It's becoming illegal migrants, not just migrants as a whole. And they're saying it is not being properly managed by the South African government. We have porous borders. People are not traced and tracked. People are not documented. And ultimately, the results of that will be criminality, to an extent, the competition of resources that South Africans feel like they need to be prioritized for. But you have another element, an element of vigilantism, an element of criminality, and all of them are affecting very, very vulnerable groupings, which are migrant groups, innocent men and women and children. What's the meeting point here? Or how can ordinary, regular South Africans go about this discourse?
Right. Well, first things first, I want to say that as someone who's on the ground and has seen how things are playing out, I can tell you that the people who are saying, "Oh no, we're just going after the illegal ones, those who are undocumented, those who are committing crimes in the country," I can tell you that is a blatant falsehood. As the South Africa Palestine movement, we're involved in the humanitarian assistance of a group of refugees, about 200 of them at Che Guevara. This is a group that is documented that they are illegal asylum seekers. Some of them are even legal permanent residents, which, they have the same constitutional rights as a South African citizen, except the right to vote. And they have been forced out of their homes. They had to flee out of fear. They've been threatened. Some of them have even been assaulted, and they've been told to go back to their home, not just by these vigilante mobs, but also the South African government. The South African government last week Thursday, they sent in a ministerial delegation there to tell them that they had two options, and it was either to go back to their communities, who were, there's a very probable risk of like being assaulted and maybe even being killed. And also the second option is to be sent to the Lindela Repatriation Center to be repatriated. And you cannot repatriate these people. They are refugees. They fled war zones to come here. You cannot send them back to a war zone. That is insane. So yeah, the idea that it is, this valid concern of, oh, okay, we need to tackle, undocumented immigration. I don't think anyone here is saying, yes, we love undocumented immigrants. It's great. I would say it's not a immigration issue. It's a issue of documentation, and the fact that Home Affairs is so inefficient and dysfunctional in its documentation process, and those systems have been deliberately, or you could say it's a byproduct of how corrupt the South African state is, that over the decades our public institutions have been hollowed out to allow undocumented people or the undocumented status of people to happen. But I think we need to center the conversation that it isn't just undocumented immigrants who are being attacked in this. It's also documented people and also South African citizens. I can't tell you how many times the people who've been on the road helping, we have been called kwere kwere. We've been told we need to leave the country of our birth, because apparently, we are not true South Africans. We're not patriots of the country, apparently. And I think we should be asking ourselves, why is it that we are now starting to feel comfortable, loosely defining who is a South African and who isn't a South African? That is a very big concern and a question that we should be asking ourselves right now as well.
And I think that's the question we're going to leave our listeners with. Riley Singh, thank you so much for joining us and for giving us insight on what's a very, very important development out in Durban. Hope we chat again soon.
Yeah, thanks again for having me.
There you go. And with that, we've come to the end of today's edition of News and Views. Thank you so much for staying with us for the past 2 hours and 1 minute. Inad Wadi will be back with you for the Juma edition of the show tomorrow. And just a quick reminder, in case you've forgotten or it hasn't reached you yet, our Soweto Walk for Gaza is happening Saturday, the 20th of June 2026. So we're about 2-3 days away from it. It will be starting at around 7:30 a.m. at the Regina Mundi Church and will be ending at the Soweto Mosque. This is a walk for solidarity from the people of South Africa, from the people of Soweto to the people of Palestine and the people of Gaza. And yeah, we want you to be a part of it. If you wanna be a part of it, you want to volunteer any sort, or you're just seeking a bit more information on what's going to be happening this upcoming Saturday, you can get in touch with us. Number is 061 766 0355. I'll be there. My colleagues are going to be there, and it's going to be a beautiful walk showcasing solidarity and, again, spreading the message of hope, spreading the message of unity, and a message of peace, which I think is something that South Africa needs more than anything right now. Otherwise, for myself, Salalo Makudiri, and the rest of the team, it's bye for now. Shap, shap.
Soweto, it's time to stand together for justice, peace, and solidarity. Join us for the annual Soweto Walk for Gaza, taking place on Saturday, the 20th of June at 7:30 a.m. The walk will begin at the historic Regina Mundi Church and proceed to the monumentous Dlamini Mosque, bringing together people of all faiths, backgrounds, and communities in a powerful show of unity and support. Bring your family, friends, and fellow residents as we walk together for a common cause. Let your voice be heard and your presence counted. That's the annual Soweto Walk for Gaza, Saturday, the 20th of June at 7:30 in the morning, starting at Regina Mundi Church and ending at Dlamini Mosque. Together we walk, together we stand, together we show solidarity.